Welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. What happens when a regime built on fear starts preparing an exit? Last night, intelligence reports suggest Iran's supreme leader may already have a Plan B1 that ends not in Tehran, but in Moscow. If this sounds familiar, it should. We've seen this movie before, and it didn't end well. With protests spreading, security forces under pressure, and loyalty no longer guaranteed, the question is no longer if Iran is changing, but how fast. Before we break it all down, make sure to like this video, subscribe for in-depth geopolitical analysis, and share it with anyone following Middle East security. And I want to hear from you. Is Iran facing its own Assad moment, or does the regime still have a way out? Drop your opinion in the comments, debate it, challenge it, because this conversation matters. Okay, let's unpack this report. It's really, it's deeply concerning. We want to go straight to the heart of the geostrategic implications of this potential flight.
Exactly. What's so fascinating here is that this isn't just, a hypothetical. It seems to be rooted in specific intelligence, which suggests a really fundamental shift in the regime's own confidence.
So the question really is, how seriously should we be taking this Plan B?
And what does it signal about the internal stability of the Islamic Republic? That's the core of it. The leadership seems to believe the internal threats now outweigh any external ones.
So let's get into the scenario itself. We're talking about Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He's 86.
Right, and he's got this detailed contingency plan ready to go.
And the trigger for it isn't a foreign invasion. It's civil turmoil. It's his own security forces potentially defecting or just refusing orders.
It's the ultimate insurance policy, but, it's not for the whole government.
No, it's hyper-specific.
The intelligence says it's Khamenei, his son Mojtaba, who is the presumed heir.
Yes.
And then a very small group, maybe 20 or so close associates and family. It's about preserving the core, not the state.
The survival of the bloodline.
That's it. It suggests the goal has shifted.
And the destination they chose, that's another huge geostrategic signal.
Moscow.
Right, Moscow. Sources say this is because Khamenei admires Putin.
And he apparently believes that Iranian culture is more similar to Russian culture. It's not a neutral choice. It solidifies a very specific alignment.
It solidifies dependence. And there's a direct precedent for this, which is it's incredibly telling.
Yes. The strategy explicitly mirrors the flight of Bashar al-Assad,
the former Syrian leader. This was back in December 2024.
Exactly. He took a flight to Moscow right before opposition fighters captured Damascus.
So that comparison is so key for anyone trying to understand this. It doesn't just give us a model. It sort of sets an expectation for how fast a collapse like this could happen.
It sets the bar for extreme speed. With Assad, the collapse happened because of a sudden wave of defections within the army.
Right.
And his flight was only possible because Russia had everything pre-positioned. The logistics were already in place.
So the lesson for Khamenei is what? You have hours, not days.
Precisely. Once that military cohesion breaks, the window to execute a complex international escape is incredibly small. That's why the dependence on Moscow is so critical.
And to make that escape work, you need capital. Massive, liquid capital.
The preparatory work, as the reports detail it, is about gathering assets, properties abroad, and cash.
So let's talk about that cash. We know Khamenei controls an incredibly vast and opaque financial network.
Primarily through CTAD, the semi-state foundation.
And its assets were estimated at, $95 billion way back in 2013?
They were, but that's the catch. Most of that isn't liquid cash. It's tied up in real estate, in corporate holdings, things that are under sanctions.
So how do you liquidate that? If you're preparing for a collapse, how do you turn billions in sanctioned assets into untraceable currency to support, 20 people in Moscow?
That's the challenge, and that's why the prep work is so telling. It requires months of planning, moving cash through complex networks in places like Dubai or Turkey.
So just the fact they're doing the prep work confirms the seriousness of it.
It's the sound of the life raft being inflated, yes.
So let's look at what's pushing them towards that life raft.
Yeah.
What are the internal pressures that would actually trigger this decision?
Well, the main driver is this existential economic hardship. It's fueling demonstrations everywhere.
Including in places that used to be regime strongholds.
Yes, even in Qom, the sacred city, that's not just political dissent, that's a deep ideological wound.
And in the past, the regime has always relied on its security forces. The IRGC, the Basij, they all answer directly to Khamenei.
For this plan to be triggered, those forces have to fail. The tipping point is loyalty.
Right.
It's not just about the protests, it's about the defection or, the failure of the units meant to suppress them. You have to distinguish between the ideologically loyal IRGC and, say, the regular army rank and file whose families are suffering from the bad economy.
And yet we're hearing reports from demonstrators of brutal tactics, live ammunition, tear gas, which suggests some units are still very much functional. So is this fear based on realism, or is it just paranoia?
I think it's likely a bit of both. Western intelligence assessments do characterize Khamenei as, quote, paranoid.
But paranoia rooted in real threats over the years.
Of course. But the assessment also notes he's grown weaker, both mentally and physically, especially after last year's conflict with Israel.
He's also been absent from public view during all this unrest.
Which speaks volumes. It all ties into this well-documented obsession with survival. He sheltered in a bunker during that conflict with Israel.
So he's seen that external threats can be managed, but an internal threat is different. It's fatal.
And that obsession goes way back. It's rooted in his personal history, surviving that assassination attempt in 1981.
The one that disabled his right hand.
Exactly. The intelligence assessment says that event cemented his belief in a kind of divine mission to lead Iran.
So if you believe your survival is divinely ordained, then any threat must be evil.
And it justifies any measure, including planning your escape. It puts personal survival ahead of national stability.
And that fundamental shift in priority have immediate, profound geostrategic implications. So let's pivot to that. What does Plan B mean for Iran's role in the region, for its proxies?
Well, the whole regional architecture is built on Khamenei's role as the, global leader of Shiite Muslims.
That's the justification for funding Hezbollah, Hamas, the militias in Iraq and Syria.
But those external investments are becoming a massive liability at home, especially when people can't afford bread. The proxies got weakened in the recent conflict, and Iranians started asking, why are we spending billions abroad?
And that's where the foreign policy just starts collapsing inward.
It is, and you can see it. You can actually hear it in the protest chants. This is maybe the most striking geostrategic data point in this whole thing.
The specific quote from the source material.
Yeah.
It's just devastating to the regime's ideology.
Protesters are chanting, no to Gaza, no to Lebanon, I'd give my life for Iran only.
That is a complete ideological reversal.
It's a direct challenge to the entire concept of the supreme leader's regional authority. When your own people reject spending on foreign policy, you lose your mandate to project power.
That chant just cuts the legs out from under Iran's entire foreign policy.
It does, and it underscores why that international safety net is so crucial. The very existence of this Moscow Plan B confirms Russia is the only credible sanctuary left.
So Russia is essentially offering the ultimate security guarantee. We'll get you and your family out safely.
It's a huge win for Moscow. It cements them as a central player in the Middle East and gives them incredible leverage over Tehran.
And it's not just about Khamenei. The intelligence mentions something else interesting.
Right, that several of his senior advisors, someone like Ali Larijani, have relatives living overseas.
In the U.S., Canada, Dubai.
Exactly. It highlights the sort of dual nature of the elite. Khamenei is focused on an ideological safe haven in Moscow,
while his inner circle has hedged their bets in the West.
It shows a fracture between the leader's rigidity and the pragmatism of his advisors. It just underscores how unstable the whole thing really is.
So what does this all mean? What's the takeaway here? The fact that the leadership is getting ready to liquidate assets and plot an exit route, it signals the internal crisis has surpassed any external threat. And that knowledge, it just fundamentally alters how we view the stability of the Islamic Republic.
And it raises a critical question for analysts everywhere. If the supreme leader is consumed by this obsession with survival, if he's focused on his assets and his escape,
what resources are left for actually governing?
Or for suppressing the protests? The priority is clearly shifted from statecraft to contingency planning.
For you, the listener, the key takeaway here is just recognizing how quickly a major geopolitical power can become internally fragile. The movement of cash, the choice of Moscow, mirroring the Assad escape, these aren't just rumors. They're operational signs of a deep crisis of confidence at the very top.
Indeed. And that means we have to reassess Iran's regional posture. If the leader is this distracted, we should expect to see real-world effects on how they manage their proxies. It could create vacuums.
It's fascinating. We know Khamenei was born in Mashhad and had these early literary interests, Tolstoy, Steinbeck. Given his current position, facing a potential revolutionary flight, I wonder which tragic figure from Russian or Western literature he might see himself as now. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We appreciate you watching or listening. Be sure to explore our other deep dives for more in-depth analysis.
If you found this discussion valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to the Geostrategic Podcast for more in-depth analysis on topics that shape our world. Stay informed, stay ahead, and stay tuned for the next episode. See you in the next one.